Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you guys for being here. Let's start. Ms. Klein, there's bipartisan understanding of the role critical minerals, essential minerals, are going to play in our evolving energy economy. Wind turbines rely on rare earth elements, other critical minerals, essential minerals. As BOEM oversees minerals on our outer continental shelf, how is your agency looking at critical minerals as a part of the broader clean energy strategy? Are you concerned about supply chain disruptions slowing down the progress on offshore wind deployment?
Well, thank you very much for the question. On critical minerals, from just the BOEM perspective, we know that the Outer Continental Shelf has the potential for critical minerals development. There's not a lot of information and data right now about where those resources are. There's not a lot of data on the type of mining activities that might be used to obtain those resources. And so at BOEM, we are undertaking a process to build up an inventory of offshore critical minerals. We're also playing a role at the U.S. as an observer country, the International Seabed Authority, and making sure that we're providing our expertise there. But certainly, critical minerals development is something we believe to be a priority. And as we don't have any applications in front of us currently for critical minerals development on the OCS, but are building up our expertise and program to make sure that we're ready when they come. And supply chain generally is a challenge that the offshore wind industry is facing all across the world. And so, at the BOEM and this administration have put a priority on ensuring that we are building up a domestic supply chain here in the U.S., building up the type of manufacturing hubs and supporting U.S. jobs here to build out this industry.
Great. And I think it's just interesting. It's going to be as the possibility rises and values and costs adjust, the environmental conditions at the outer shelf are not sufficiently well studied either. So I think needs to be a real focus on looking at how much material would have to be moved, what would that do to the conditions, what is the condition of the aquatic environment were that to happen. I'm very concerned about essential minerals, but I think that you guys are going to have to balance this very carefully. Also, just the goal of 30 gigawatts of offshore wind by the end of the decade. Are we on schedule, do you think, to be able to make that?
Well, thank you for the question. We know it's a bold, but we still think achievable goal. We know the industry is facing a lot of its own headwinds with, as I mentioned, supply chain issues and increasing costs, but we're continuing to move forward. We have about approximately 27 gigawatts or so that we believe will come to decisions around permitting by 2025, and we are focusing on additional lease sales that will allow for more projects in the future.
Great. That's somewhat optimistic. Let's see there. I guess the last question, the NRAIL was doing a study looking at transmission in from the Atlantic, and where are we with that study? Just because I think what Senator Heinrich was talking about is critically important, as well as making sure we have a big wires act that is looking at how do you connect regional hubs of energy consumption and generation. How do you make sure we have energy going to where it needs to be?
Sure. I'd have to get back to you on the exact status of the NREL study that you're referring to, but as I mentioned, we are working through these issues with our colleagues at Department of Energy, which have lots of experience on transmission issues, and we've put out an action plan for the Atlantic. We're hoping to also move forward on a similar planning effort on the Pacific. We know that the variety of recommendations about what to do in the short, medium, and long term might include a mix of executive actions and also, potentially legislative fixes. And so we're looking forward to continuing to work with this committee on those issues.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that both of you are doing such important work in terms of balancing the environment with the need for, if we don't have essential critical minerals, our battles against climate change will stop in their tracks. So you've got the driving you a sense of urgency there, but at the same time, it's not worth it if we sacrifice our environment. Thank you. I'll yield back to the chair.